Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the internet, happy Tuesday. And one of the things me and Marcus like to say is when we were looking for really fun things to say about Tuesday is calling it Terrible Tuesdays. Guys, I have literally the complete antithesis of a terrible Tuesday. I have a special guest. Obviously, Marcus is not here today, but this person, let me just tell you who this person is. Just an absolute gangster of business. I mean, has started from, the song From the Bottom to the Top, something like that. You millennials will know what I'm talking about. This person has started at the bottom and has touched and graced the top of our industry. Guys, the best buyer's agent I know, there's probably going to be like a bronze statue of her somewhere at some point, just holding like a buyer's rep agreement because she's that good. This is the missus that grants the wishes, all right, when it comes to buyers out there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jen Davis is joining us in the building today. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning. What an intro. You could be my new hype person.
It's kind of my thing.
It's your thing. You're hired.
Oh, Jen, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, you have been a busy person for the better part of your life. So thank you for taking some time here to hang out with us. For those people who have been living under a rock for the past 10 years and do not know who you are, can you give us just a quick snapshot of who you are and how we got here?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. Super pumped to be here. My name is Jen Davis. I live in Springfield, Missouri. I'm a mom of two great kids that I'm very proud of. And if you follow me at all on social media, that's really the only thing I ever post about. So I've got an 18-year-old daughter, Caitlin, that is actually signing her letter of intent tomorrow to run Division II cross country and track. And then I've got a 13-year-old Cooper who's in the middle of his middle school basketball season. So we're in a tournament this week and they upset the team that they played last night. So we've got another game tonight. So we're super excited. I'm also an owner of Holt Homes Group in Springfield, Missouri. So we are a team that really focuses on a lot of production per agent. I started as a buyer's agent on the team. I was our lead buyer specialist for about 6 years and developed the showing agent model that most people within the K.W. ecosystem now utilize to some degree. So at one point, we were closing 225 to 240 buy sides for 3 years in a row. I was leading that while Dan Holt, my business partner and fiance recently, was leading the listing side. So while I was closing 225 buy sides, he was taking roughly 272 listings a year. And we operated in that space for quite a while. 2019, I became our CEO, bought into the company and got us to 540-ish closed transactions, 43% profit. And then a couple of years ago, right? So I think it was 2021, 2022. I got a call from the COO at the time of K.W., and they asked if I wanted to be the vice president of MAPS coaching. So I got to serve in that capacity, which is how I got to know you, for 2 years. I resigned last June to spend more time at home. It's my daughter. I mentioned it. It's her senior year, and I was missing stuff that I didn't want to miss anymore. So I've been in the ecosystem for 12 years. People hear the big numbers of the 225 on the buy side or 500 closed units. And at one time I closed 16 houses in a year, right? So I've lived the gamut, right, of production. And so right now I operate in a coaching space still for MAPS. So super pumped to be here and excited to connect with you and hopefully help some of our agents sell one more house.
I'm just like, my cheeks hurt from smiling so much because you're such a pro. I mean, like the nonchalance, ladies and gentlemen, and the humility of the things that she just said. 40% profit? Like, what are we talking about here, Jen? That's amazing.
It is amazing, but it also is a lot of showing up every day, right? It's meeting with an accountant. It's understanding a P&L. It's not spending ego money, right? It's understanding really what Gary means in the shift book of holding your dollars accountable, right? It's a red light, green light. I think it's funny, like I sometimes get that with the numbers. People are like, they start to check out, and it's not that. I think I've had so much failure along the way.
Sure.
Typically, you don't highlight that in the first few minutes of the call, or people would drop and you would have lower viewership. But I think what it is it's showing up every day, right? I
Mhm.
had this I had this quest to be the best in whatever role I was in. I'm not a shiny object person, so I don't tend to chase the next easiest thing. I'm not a fad person. So the 40% profitability was showing up every day. The 225 buy sides was showing up every day. It was following time blocks. There's very little that's sexy about the story. It's just a lot of work.
That's right. And unfortunately, and fortunately, the success usually lies in the boring or the quote mundane.
It does. It's that idea of repetitious boredom. I it was showing up at the office the same time every day. It was doing lead generation. It was doing lead follow-up. It was holding appointments. It was getting signed agreements. It was going on showings. It was negotiating contracts. It was getting people to the closing table. And I think there's I think that sometimes in this world that right everything's on demand, right? You can watch a TV show on demand. You can get food delivered to your door. You can spend double the money that you normally would at Chick-fil-A and have it just show up, which is amazing, right? It's
Sure.
amazing that we live in this time of on demand. And the challenge of that is where we can live sometimes in a mental space when the work we're putting in isn't it's we're putting in work and there aren't immediate results, and that's hard.
Sure. Yeah, it's almost this idea of we've swung too far as a society and as a culture into convenience, and it's almost like we're getting killed by convenience now.
It is, and I think it's the noise, right? There's so much noise right now, and I don't think there was as much noise when I was building, our team. Maybe there was. It was just probably different noise. It just the ability to be where you're at, right? The idea of this be where your feet are, and when you're at work, being at work, and when you're at home, being at home, and doing the things that you need to do that that you need to do that we're avoiding doing, right? I think it's this idea of right now there's so much noise, there's not space to think, there's not space for creativity, there's not space to grow because we're just constantly in this never ending, it's getting like stoned to death with fruity pebbles, right? Like it's just ping, 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 ping.
Delicious. Okay, keep
Oh,
going. Yeah,
yeah,
no, this is
okay.
great.
The cocoa pebbles would be a good option too.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you bring up a great point, and this is something that was coached into me by another pal of yours, Emily Baker, and it was having planning time on your calendar, time to just think and be. A lot of people don't understand this, but almost, I'm not going to say every, but a lot of large discoveries, a lot of large inventions, a lot of large advancement forward in humankind came after a break or a nap.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to have space for creativity or for planning or, like you said, just thinking, because if not, we just get caught up in the noise and we can never come above the water and take a breath and see where we're at and what we should do next.
Well, that's right. There's like this idea of like decision fatigue, right?
Mhm.
And the more more decisions you make before you have a break or have rest or the thinking time, right? That Emily was talking about. What happens is the decisions get worse.
Yeah.
And what happens is you don't see the impact of those decisions until we get 90 days down the road, and all of a sudden you're like, what happened? Right? The thing that most people will say to me is like, they're like, "Jen, nothing's working. I'm doing all the things." And I'm like, "God, you're not. You're not doing all the things, right? Because if you were doing all the things, certainly something would work.
Certainly.
Certainly something would work. But what's happening is because there's no built-in break, because there's no prep time, because there's no thought ahead, we're living in a constant cycle of 24 hours instead of thinking, what do I want my next week to look like? What do I want my next month to look like? What do I want my next year to look like, or 5 years or 10 years? And there's this, Jordan Freed, I know you had him on recently. He and I did an interview over the summer. I was taking the summer off, and he and I explored this idea of like permission to pause. right?
Mm.
When you're in this space of the grind has to happen, right?
Mhm.
I've earned the right to pause because I've done all of the work. I did the grind, right? But this idea of permission to pause, I think what happens is people miss that rest can be strategic.
Huge.
Mhm.
I was literally on a coaching call this morning and we talked about it. Like the just speaking of rest and even sleep, right? I've spent years sometimes, guys, not sleeping a lot because the grind needed to happen. But what would have happened if I was rested and recharged and ready to go? How much stronger would my output be? How much higher my creativity? How much better my interactions with people? And that's just in business. The health benefits, my God, guys, the studies and things are finding out about the drop in just all cause mortality when it comes to a minimum of like 7 hours of just sleep and rest. It's so hard to ignore.
It's so hard to ignore, and I think what happens is when you're making decisions, right? We talked about decision fatigue and making one after another, and they get diminished over time. You add lack of sleep to that, and it's actually the same as making a decision while intoxicated. It's
Mm,
there the studies that are done on the lack of sleep versus having a few drinks, it's similar, it's similar cognitive ability. And so I think, some of you are out there and you're like, I just want to know how to sell 225 buy sides. And you guys are talking about
for
getting into
sure, for sure.
and I'm like, but the thing is like there were so many years, Kyle, that I
Mhm.
missed it. There were so many years that I was in the grind that I was operating in a life of I have to win the year.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be the best buyer's agent in all of KW. I wanna be the number 1 buyer's agent in all of KW, and that's a driver, right? And there are things that are healthy about a driver or a
Of
goal,
course.
but there can also be unhealthy things that go along with that.
Yeah, it's the constant and never ending need for counterbalance, right? Hey, we can swing here, but let's keep a foot on the ground.
Yeah, what are our checks and balances? Who's speaking into our life? You had a coaching call this morning. I've got coaching calls lined up this afternoon. And like, who's your mentor? Who's your coach? Who's the person that's not afraid to hold up the mirror that's going to say, "Hey, I think you're entering into where we might need some guardrails."
Mm, yes, man. So one of our foundational principles that we talk about on the show is who you surround yourself with.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that you guys understand this. What Jen did not say is I was selling 200 plus buy sides alone.
No.
She had the right people around, and then she built those relationships and they held each other accountable. So Jen, like, how does group and surrounding and people you put in your sphere kind of show up for you?
You mentioned Emily. Emily was there for part of it, right?
Mhm.
Like she led our lead gen department during some of those years. Um, who you surround yourself matters, right? I know that people talk about often, right? You're the sum of your 5 closest relationships. There's this idea for me of I was a high school athlete, right? I was not a college athlete, but I was a high school athlete. And there's something about being part of a team and understanding um, the greater good, right? Or the greater mission. And I think when I look at the people that I've had in my life, and I have been so fortunate to have so much talent around me, I think part of the fortune though came in how I showed up, right? I did show up as a team player. I was never unwilling to do the work. I was never unwilling to let somebody else have a day of rest. It was never, well, I've got showing agents now, so I'm never going to work a Saturday again, or I'm never going to work an evening again. And so I think for me, what really shows up is it doesn't matter if I get to step up a rung on a ladder, if I
Mhm.
don't have anyone that is gonna cover the rung I just left, right? And so there's this idea of, when you're leading people, it's hard. People are hard, right? They're hard to lead, they're hard to help buy homes, they're hard to help list their home. People are a challenge because 'cause they're people. But I think understanding that my goal has always been, and I've not always done it well, but to leave somebody better for knowing me. to
Sure.
to make an impact. And I think when you look at those rungs on the ladder, sometimes the enablement shows up. There's ego, right? There's ego in leadership. There's ego in everything, and some ego is healthy, but there's where ego can show up is the person that's leading that doesn't take the time to onboard correctly, that doesn't take the time to train correctly, that doesn't run a 30, 60, 90, right? That doesn't give feedback to the people in their world. Because what happens is where ego shows up is, you know what, I don't have time to show you how to do this, Kyle. So it's gonna take me 5 minutes. I'll just do it myself. But what happens is over time, those 5 minutes that I'm not investing in you actually are the ceiling for your growth and the ceiling for mine. Because if you can't do the tasks that I'm unwilling to teach you, neither of us get to grow, neither of us get to learn. And so, the analogy, I used it last week. I was teaching in a market center, and the analogy I would use would be your kids learning to tie their shoes.
Mm.
It can be frustrating.
Sure. Sure.
And you're leaving the house and you're like, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. And you bend down and you tie their shoe. And you bend down and you tie their shoe. And every day you're in a hurry because every day you're like, I got to get out of this house. We're
Yeah.
late. I got to get you to school. I got to get to the office. I'm just going to tie your shoe. And then fast forward and they're in 5th or 6th grade. And now they have to wear shoes that have like Velcro, right? Because they can't tie their shoe. And then you fast forward to middle school basketball, and the cool kids really like shoes. And those shoes don't come with Velcro. Jordans don't come with Velcro, right? Kobe's don't come with Velcro. And there's a kid, and it never fails. There's a kid on the free throw line that needs to tie his shoe, and he can't tie his shoe. And you're looking at it and you're like, I see you to the parents because I get it. I was that person where I was like, we got to go. We got to go. I'll just do it for you. I'll just do it for you. But the analogy works in business too. If I don't train someone in my world on how to have a hard conversation, if I don't train them to be prepared to see opportunity, if I don't train them to look around a corner to bulletproof a transaction, and I'm like, I'll just help. I'll just jump in. I'll just have this conversation. I'll just do this thing. At some point, that person on your team is going to be standing at the free throw line and they can't tie their own shoes. And you're mad at them as a leader.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, you've been on my team for 2 years. How do you not know this? And in all reality, might be you. Yeah.
Man, some just apps, guys. You see, this is why I like Jen. She comes in all nice and fun and brings you in, and then just punches you right in the leadership gut with some hard truths. Whew. Guys, if you are looking to build something, if you're looking to build a team or build a buyer's side or get your first showing agent or anything like that, I trust that you took some time to write down and listen to the things that she just said, right? Are you teaching them? Are you investing the time, the energy, and the focus to equip them to help not just raise their lid, but raise your own, man?
Mhm. You look at it and you think about what would I do? Because our showing agents, when they were closing 60, 75, 80, 90 transactions a year. And you look at it and you think, how would I treat a client
Mm,
that was buying 60 homes with me, 90 homes with me? How would I treat a client that was listing 60 homes with me, 90 homes, 30 homes? You pick your number, right? Sometimes we get too big. You got a showing agent that's helping you with 24 transactions. Do you have a client that's going to buy 24 homes from you? Do you have a client that's going to list 24 properties with you? Do you treat your showing agent the same way, or do you treat them like an assistant? And I think that's that mental shift and the mental shift in leadership is I can't expect my showing agents or my transaction coordinators or a listing coordinator or a listing agent or anybody in my world to show up if I don't show up. And so for me, I always looked at it and I was like, I'm going to treat this showing agent the way that I would treat a client that's going to buy or sell 60 homes with me or 90 homes with me, because that means I'm having dinner with them. I know their family. I know their kids, right? I know when their birthday is. I know when their anniversary is. I'm celebrating with them. I'm grieving with them in times, right? But I'm available to them. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we look at leadership as just the leverage piece. I'm
Mm,
putting this person on to leverage all the stuff I don't want to do. Well, guys, I never didn't want to show houses. It was my last piece of leverage because I loved showing houses,
yeah.
not because of the house, but because of the people, because of the story. It's your biggest ROI, right? You're in front of people, you're doing something fun. They get to pick the house, they're placing their Christmas tree, or they're figuring out how they're going to decorate it. That was a hard piece to leverage.
Sure.
And I think we have to understand bringing people into our world isn't about getting rid of the stuff we don't want to do in our job. That's a bonus. It works out pretty well most of the time. But the bigger part of it is I'm going to impact this person's life. I'm
Mhm.
taking them from whatever role they're in whatever industry they're in, and I'm saying, bet on me. I better show up pretty well for that.
Guys, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not taking notes, then do you have a pulse right now? She's giving you absolute gold on how to lead a team, big or small. Big or small.
It could be your family, right?
Right.
There are individual agents out there that are like, I don't have a team. This doesn't resonate with me. Well, you're a leader somewhere. You're a leader in your friend group. You're a leader in your home. You're leading your kids, right? It is the ability, I was in church on Sunday, and there was the sermon was about, you know, how you become how you're a good member of your family. Family
Mhm.
could transition to team, could transition to whether that's a sports team, whether that's a real estate team, whether that's being in a market center, right? Whether that's being in a friend group. And I think understanding right now the world is so disconnected, right? We talked about it. There's so much noise, there's so much technology, social media, there's all these things. And you're like, people they're grasping for connection. And so I think that's it, is like, where do we lean in as leaders, wherever we're planted, to make sure that we're making a good impact, not a bad impact.
A non-impact.
Mhm.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the one and only Jen Davis, and the proof is in the pudding. I trust that you're hearing some things. I want to make sure that we honor your time and hers. So before we get some final thoughts from her, I definitely have a special message from someone that you enjoy, and here it is. It's Travis Kelsey, and he's giving you a heart.
I knew he loved me.
I think he does. That picture was made just for you, by the
Yes.
way. So there you go.
We're
You're
going to
gonna
win
have
the Super Bowl this Sunday. Can't wait.
That's it. Jen Davis, gross cheese. Anyway, but apart from that, yeah, Daddy just lost points.
Yeah.
Apart from that,
I don't know
what?
if you lost points for calling yourself daddy or if you lost points for the Chiefs.
This is live, Jen. So, apart from that, what are some final thoughts or some things that you would like to, leave these awesome agents that I know you truly care about and love with on this Tuesday?
I've been talking a lot lately about kind of one of the last few meetings I was in with Gary before I stepped out of the MAPS role. And he has often said to many of us, right, head down, heart up.
Mhm.
This day, though, he said, head down, heart up, feet forward. And it hit, right? And it landed with me. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And so for me, here's my interpretation. This is not what he said, but this is what I will say. The head down, guys, do the work that you know you need to do in the order that you need to do it. Cut out the noise. The noise can be social media. It can be what we're putting into our bodies by food, or what we're drinking or not drinking. It can be noise of news, right? And it can be noise of what other agents are saying about your market. If you can cut out the noise, put your head down and do the work every day. Show up and do the work. The heart up is be proud of who we are, be proud of what we do. We impact families, we help people, right? We get to help humans, and it's messy and
Mhm.
it's scary sometimes, and there are big dollar amounts associated with it, but you get to be part of somebody's story, and I think there's honor in that, right? I'm proud to be a buyer's agent. I'm proud to be a real estate agent. I don't feel like I'm a used car salesman, right? Like, the heart up is never talk somebody into buying or selling a home that they didn't want to buy or sell. And so the heart up, do it for the right reasons, right? Do it to help people. The money stuff will all follow. And then the feet forward is keep adapting, keep changing. Make sure that you're aware of what's happening in your local market. Make sure your message matches it, right?
Mm,
I think right now is a time for micro messages, not macro messages. So look at the emails that you're sending, look at your newsletters, look at the text messages you're sending, look at the videos you're posting. Would you watch it? Would you read it? Does it add value? Or is it just simply another like pumpkin pie recipe? Right. I think looking at it and saying, where can I add value? How can I adapt? The things that worked a year ago may not work right now. Ego shows up in the feet forward. Ego
mm,
shows up when we're unwilling to change something that we've always done because we've always done it. And so I think when I look at our agents and I look at those of you that are just getting into the business or have been in the business a long, long time, some of you may be considering getting out of it. Give yourself 90 days, 90 days of head down. Do the work you know you need to do in the order you know you need to do it. Cut out the noise. What we put in comes out, right? So good food, good exercise, lots of water, right? Good stuff comes out. Put your head down, do the work that you know you need to do. Heart up. We love people. Be here to help, be a resource, be an advocate for your clients. And then feet forward, make the adaptations you need to make. That doesn't mean it's chasing a shiny object. It
yeah.
means practice what we're saying. If it no longer lands well, say it different, but practice that too. I'm using but a lot, and there's a bold coach on here. I'm going to be in a lot of trouble later.
Fine, it's great.
I think that's just it though. Like surround yourself with people like this call that's growth minded, right?
Mhm.
That we're believers in people, right? We want others to win. I think that's the most important thing. If we're looking at what can we do right now, the next 90 days, put your head down, heart up, feet forward.
Man, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the internet, there she is. Now you know. If you didn't, why she's so awesome. Jen, I know I speak for them and I'll speak for myself. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was really good to see you.
Thank you. It was awesome to see you as always. And hopefully I'll see you in like 10 days, 12
And
days.
go Chiefs.
And go Chiefs. All right, I'll say it. Go Chiefs, everybody.
Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
boys and girls. See y'all later.